Hello there. Today, we examine one of the critical essence of ICAN on air, and that is enlightenment, which really is the quintessence of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria in its quest for professionalism in and outside Nigeria. Yes, we interrogate the subject, impacts of Nigeria's educational development trajectory on quality of professionals. Impact of Nigeria's educational development trajectory on the quality of professionals. Educational development has never been fully implemented in relation to set objectives within the educational system that we operate today. We have set objectives for education, absolutely no doubt. Primary school, secondary school, up to tertiary, until the professionals now begin to SWOT. Because this implementation has not been optimal, the educational system today is in some form of assortment of infrastructural decay, neglect, wasteful resources, and sordid conditions of service. Joining me in our question and answer segment of the program on how typical professionals have navigated to success despite the odds is Dr. Diron Fawibe. Dr. Diron Fawibe is a member, National Committee on Energy Master Plan, also a member of the Subcommittee on Oil and Gas and Conventional Energy. Dr. Fawibe is a member of the Governing Council of the Institute of Directors. He's been on there for 12 years and still running. He is chairman of the Energy Policy Committee of the Institute of Directors. He's been on that for some close to about 6 years. Dr. Diron Fawibe has been a member of government delegations to various international conferences and trade missions to non-OPEC countries such as the UK, the Brazil, the United States, especially the North-South dialogue between 8 developing and, no, really, 8 developed and 16 developing countries that took place in Paris between 1975 and 1976, as well as being in the consultative meetings in practically all 12 member countries within the Nigeria ministerial at various times in 12 countries, Nigeria's ministerial visitations in 12 countries, and that has been at various times. Who better, having navigated all this, to come and address and give us deep insight into this subject today? We will be unveiling a little bit more on our guests very shortly. Also, on this segment of the program, we'll let you into tidbits of our ICAD diary, a few announcements, and what have you. We want to stay put, stay back, stay online. We will be back with you shortly. Please join me to welcome Dr. Liron Fawebe to ICAN on Air. Dr. Fawebe, you are most welcome.
Thank you very much, Akin, for this opportunity.
Beautiful. You know, Dr. Fawebe, before we launch into real It Proper, it is always very conventional to get the likes of you who've had the millennials who say you had the best of education when education was like a piece of cake compared to a lot of the things we have in here. And at that level, education was a lot of swords, but a lot of ease. And it's within that context that I begin to fire at you, looking at how education has been then, how it was 20 years ago, perhaps, and how its development has gone into this trajectory. What will be the effect on professionals, not just accountants, professionals that are being turned out today? I'd like to ask and frame this by giving us a bit of a background to this subject. I know you received your primary education in Nigeria, which was University of Ibadan in the late 60s. What was the state of education during that period in terms of quality, in terms of standards, and the conducive environment for learning?
Thank you very much, Akin. Well, I will start to say that the education, development, and standard and environment in those days can be considered as a golden era of education and learning in Nigeria. As you mentioned, I had my primary education in Nigeria at the University of Ibadan in the 60s. I entered the University of Ibadan in 1966. And one thing that we demonstrate in graphical terms about the quality of education was that before we got into the university, we started our orientation 2 weeks ahead of October 2nd, when lectures were supposed to start. And before that, they had sent to us a letter to buy 2 books, which we will use for orientation, which we will use for tutorials during orientation period of 2 weeks. And during the 2 weeks of orientation, we engage in classroom tutorials on these 2 books. One on for my area with language and logic, and one on speed reading. So we had a robust engagement on those 2 books ahead of starting the lectures on October 2nd. And once we started, there was no looking back. Every department, every classroom on October 2nd, because October 1st was public holiday, every room was filled to capacity. And this was the standard of startup of teaching. And of course, when we talk about I will frame it this way so that I won't bore you with so much detail. At that time, we were operating a term system of 11 weeks per term, 3 times in a year in its academic session. You will know when you are starting your session, your term, and your session, and when you are going to do exam. And the term will end 33 weeks after you enter the university for that session. There was no strike. There was no problem about getting to the classroom and you are not having your teachers. Of course, at that time, most of the teachers, lecturers, and professors were expatriates. And so there was the quality of teaching at that time was excellent. And when we even go to the house of residence, 1966 was a period when they started to have a bit of accommodation problem. But to a large extent, only a few students were getting accommodation off campus. So the quality of rooms you are given, like for example, they used to sweep our rooms every morning and make our bed for us. Every Monday, they will take our clothes and wash. The second day or so, your clothes will be put on your bed, haven't properly ironed. When you go to the dining, you will eat as much as you wanted to eat. And if you are not belly full, you are not satisfied, you will go back and ask for more. So I'm describing this situation to give you an idea of the conducive environment in which university education was at that time. And you have no excuse whatsoever not to give your time to your study. And the libraries were full of books. And when the lecturers recommended books, you will run to the library, to get the appropriate books. And also, they will give you mimeograph, that is handout, which were never paid for, and which will be zeroing on the topic of that lecture for that day. So I give you this orientation to show you the quality of education. And so when I, in contrast to when I went back to the university some years later, I think in the 90s, under the auspices of Alumni Association of University of Ibadan, uh, what I saw appalled me. The rooms that you have two students, you now have about four legitimate occupants, and you had squatters. Each occupant will bring a squatter. So the environment was filthy and unconducive. And what we saw as so those of us, when there we were appalled, and we started thinking about what we could do to help the university. Thanks to PTF, Petroleum Trading Fund, at Petroleum Trust Fund, that came to the rescue of the university. So, not to talk about now. So, this is just to give you the background about the era of university education at that time. So, when you look at it over time, our educational system, in terms of quality, in terms of environment, has progressively nosedived. And today, I can give you some example of some of my people, either the children of relatives who were in the university. I won't mention the university, that they could not go to toilet for 5 days because the places were stinking. Do you know that my sister-in-law ran to my house at one time crying to say, I said, what is the matter? He said, Uncle, could you imagine my daughter having to be bathing in the open at 4 a.m. because there was no bathroom in one of the universities? So it goes to show the kind of situation we had compared to when we started, in the 60s and early 70s.
Wow, what erosion. Very
Wow.
few of us who are professionals will actually be surprised at what you have painted, because education is supposed to be a tool for national development. And from what you have painted, I like to put this within the context of what we are seeing today, and this gory picture that we are all alive to see today, and what happens elsewhere. In other words, can we put this within the context of what is obtainable in other countries? As I believe, you also had educational training overseas, both at the university and professional institutions.
Thank you very much, Akin. Of course, we cannot compare, standard of education here, both in terms of quality and the environment. Uh, in fact, when I finished my first degree and my master's, I thought I would go back to the university to teach, and because I had some challenges about getting data when I was writing my master's thesis, I said, okay, I will go and work and then go back. But because of the situation that happened thereafter, I didn't have any incentive to go back because progressively, like I said before, the standard of education and the environment started to be very bad. And then when you now look at what happens in other countries, uh, well, we could say that Europe and America, cannot be compared because they are developed countries. We can't compare developing countries with developed countries. But we have we no longer make conscious effort to develop our environment. You know, for example, okay, you can say that the population of Nigeria has grown tremendously, and so also the population of student intake. But we have not developed the required facilities, both in terms of classrooms and instructional facilities to be able to cope with the population we have. We tend to manage, the structures we put in place for a few, for hundreds of students to accommodate, to cope with thousands of students. Could you imagine students now having to be standing up in classes and classroom wanting to receive lectures? So, and the halls of residence are nothing to write home about. They don't have facilities. I have people in in other countries without being modest, my children schooled here for their secondary, and they have the privilege of going to school abroad for their university education. Each time I go there, because of the environment, I tend to feel that, oh, I belong to this environment because the environment will just I smell the environment as a place, a citadel of learning. And even in some African countries, take Ghana for example, there are quite a number of children who actually left Nigeria to go and school in Ghana or in South Africa. They are African countries that have tried to put a conducive environment and also teaching facilities, you know. And there are so many things that one can say considered to be wrong here. School
Mm.
admission is one thing, the quality of teaching. When you get into the university and then they rush you in and rush you out, you wouldn't have done enough classroom work or teaching. I'm not even too sure now they do tutorial, which was mandatory. When I was doing my masters, I was a tutorial master in a number of subjects, apart from doing some teaching in some departments. So this is the situation we have. So what in effect I want to say in summary is that our situation could be much better, even compared to some of our fellow African countries. Not to talk about Europe, and that is why uh, many of our children are rushing to abroad to go and have a quality education that they can be proud of.
Mm. Fantastic. Thank you for those insights, Dr. Fawibe. And is it not therefore a bit of an irony because the picture you have painted, and I want to just oppose that with the outputs of professional institutes like ICAN, like Koren, Nigeria Law School, and what have you. If the input is such that it's not being well grounded, yet we have people who eventually go into the professions, learn from the roots aspect of it, become a lot of branches, and they are doing fantastic. Is it not therefore an irony that, or how do you think we can just post that, the gaudy picture that you have painted, and well, the quality of professionals that we have now? I will be the first to also raise my hand and say yes. Naturally, it's going to affect our students wishing to become professionals, but they tend to now want to be high flyers eventually. How will you explain that that dichotomy?
Well, the university education is supposed to provide you with the tacit knowledge, which in later years can be converted into being a good professional. But when you have deficiency in the method in the curriculum that you of education we have, or the teaching method that has not impacted the knowledge the way it should be, then and then you then have some problems, when it comes to becoming a professional in later years. And that is why today, when you take some of our graduates into organizations, either companies or government establishments, they are grossly deficient in terms of being able to deliver. For example, I'm a player in the oil and gas industry, and I know the type of people that we get that who are freshers from the university to develop them into professionals. We know some of the challenges we have. Thanks to organizations like ICAN to develop accountants, ICAN, for example, provides they become the enabler to convert the tacit knowledge, even though they may be deficient, to be able to get to do what is expected of them. Uh, uh, Professional training courses that ICANN rolls out every year has assisted students or graduates, of accountancy, to be able to have a proper ground there, be able to be useful in the
Mm,
organizations where they are employed, either in companies or in government. So also we
mm,
have some other professional organizations that help graduates who have tacit knowledge and convert their knowledge to be able to deliver. Like for example, in oil and gas, we have this NCDMP that is running programs for young graduates, and then the oil companies have been very helpful, in developing programs that you can put some of these fresh graduates, because many of them are not. I will say when you take them, they are like they are raw, in terms
mm,
of the understanding. Some of them, will you imagine a situation when we were doing some projects, some years ago, we have to start to teach some of the people we brought in basic physics and mathematics to be able to cope with the software that we want to teach them to be able to do basic engineering and design work. And
mm,
some of them, before they got to, although that was over 10 years ago, I'm saying, but today, even some of them, they may have idea about computer knowledge and so on. They are still not well grounded. A couple of youth corpers were brought to my company some 2 weeks ago, and some of them we had to reject after testing. Some of them we have to reject them because other than Word, Microsoft Word, they don't know anything. And some of them will say, "Oh, what have you done? Excel?" You say, "No." Have you done PowerPoint presentation? You say, "No." So these are some basic things that some of the our universities should be able to incorporate, you know, In other words, universities are turning out unemployable graduates that can do meaningful work and you find them relevant, except you now have to run them through some programs either in the company or professional organization like ICAN, like NCDMB, like Society of Engineers, and the like. Basically, now, if we want to take graduates from the who are freshers from the university, we have to organize software training for them in various areas, starting from even AutoCAD uh, uh, and so on, which is one of the basic software we use. Not to talk about some other sophisticated one like the one you want to do for structural design, piping, electrical instrumentation, and things like that. So thanks to some professional organizations that are now have become providing enabling environment, or they become enablers for to make the graduates useful. But the point I'm trying to emphasize is the fact that the curriculum of the universities need to be improved. Then the quality of teaching, the quality of learning ought to be improved. You see somebody who has just managed to get into the university, about a few weeks after getting there, they will now say, go and do exam. And then they will rush him or her out. They don't have proper understanding. I wonder what kind of exam they set for them, and for which they said that they pass and so on. So that's the situation in which we currently have. But thanks to professional
Super.
organizations that are making a difference, in making our children, to be useful when they, to some extent. So this last point I will make here is that many organizations that can afford it tend to prefer graduates from abroad, when it comes to recruitment, that graduates from Nigerian universities. It's just a question of being able to get people who will do the work. So the
Super.
curriculum of Nigerian universities need to be overhauled.
Yes, and I can see that Joseph Ojebola, we've painted the picture. What is the way forward? What are the short, medium, and long-term measures to turn the situation around for better?
Well, you see, the way I see it is this: we have some fundamental problems. Yes, the when abroad, uh, when you go for schooling, you have to pay, and people who are ready to pay for their education here overseas, they are not ready to pay for education, pay for their education in the in Nigerian universities,
Mm.
except in private universities. When you put private universities and public universities together, you will see that uh, the quality of graduates churning out of private university tend to be better. Generally, tend to be better. It doesn't mean that there
Mm.
won't be some exceptions, to the rule, but because it's not the money per se, but you need money to be able to provide facilities. You need money to be able to provide infrastructure. Yes, quite a number of students going to public universities, they come from poor homes that will not be able to afford it. Even in those days, when we were going to school, we pay for our own education, and there was a program of indigent student program whereby students who could not pay were given indigent bursary to be able to pay their way. But today, and not many people don't want to pay. To compound the problem is the problem of ASU, and then now we are at loggerhead with the government. Let me give you an example. If tomorrow ASU and government resolve their problem, they will rush in the students, and in a couple of weeks they rush them out to say that okay, they are graduates. What do they learn?
Mm.
The
Mm.
teachers themselves, they don't concentrate on teaching anymore. And some
Mm.
of them are busy with all kinds of distractions, engagement, consultancy, and all kinds of things. They practically lost interest in teaching. So we have a lot of problems, and like I was telling a friend uh, 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 last week that, as a matter of fact, we should either close the universities because if the problem between the ASU and government cannot be resolved, or on the other hand, they should dissolve ASU and make each university to be responsible for its own administration. University of Ibadan, University of Ife, University of Nsukka, and so on. They were all responsible for their for the management of their affairs. Now, there is no question of lecturers of University of Ibadan aligning with Ife or Abu or Nsukka, and the process strangulate the educational system. It's totally wrong, and the children, of today, they should hold ASU responsible for some of the problems. I'm not saying they don't have some grievances, but believe you me, government cannot meet the needs of educational development in this country. Let's face the
Wow.
fact. We government doesn't have the resources. If ever the money free to government is spent judiciously, government can still not meet the needs of educational development, especially at tertiary level.
Excellent. A point of view, except that government has a fiduciary role. If promises were made, if
Uh,
contracts were entered into, and naturally, you should. And if there's any reason why you cannot, fidelity demands that you let the people know, and then you can begin to now renegotiate, so to speak. And if you are just joining, this is ICAN on Air, our educational enlightenment program that comes 2 times a week. Today, we are looking at the impact of Nigeria's educational development trajectory on the quality of professionals. The fielding questions to Dr. Diron Fawibe. And you have questions, please send them in. I will take care of as many as we can during this program. We go on a short break, and when we come back, Dr. Diron Fawibe is still on to take your questions and take additional questions that we are going to throw at him. Make sure you stay put, don't go away. We'll soon be back.
Hi there. Are you still thinking about why you should register for the 4th ICAN Malaysia International Accountants Conference? It's okay. The conference focus this year is specifically targeted at ensuring that all delegates become future ready and fully equipped to navigate the current times. There are also a lot of insights and discoveries that await you at this year's conference. You also get the chance to experience both the personal and professional impact of the conference. What about the networking, the tour experience, and lots of engaging interactions to bring you an all-round value? So there's no more time left for thinking. You have got to take action now. So register today and join other professionals at the 4th ICAN Malaysia International Accountants Conference from the 16th to the 19th of May 2022 at the Adia Hotel Kedah, Langkawi. For more information, please visit www.icanmalaysia.org. See you there.
You are welcome back. Now, Dr. Fabibe, based on your final thoughts, which neither becomes here or there, and for ICAN, for instance, to be the finishing school of sorts, or and preparing students to be much more grounded to become professionals. Will you say that university education is the answer or the panacea to galvanizing the Nigerian dynamic economy that the technological age of the 21st century demands?
Well, thank you very much, Akin. Like I said before, university is supposed to provide tacit knowledge uh, for the students, for students who pass through the 4 walls of the university, and they could have made it a bit easier and a bit better for the professional organizations to take them on, because if the students have a good foundation, the professional organizations that we may have, like ICAN and some organization of the like, will be able to build on solid foundation that has been laid the universities. So, but well, the professional institute and organization are filling the vacuum, and quite a number of organizations today are spending a hell of money in trying to train whoever they are bringing into their company to be able to deliver the goods. You cannot, we are not going to import people from overseas or people from another planet. We just have to make use of the resources we have here. Come to think of it, if we don't develop them, they will constitute themselves as nuisance to the economy and to the country. So it's better for us to find a way to get around some of the deficiencies that they may have, and that is why some of the programs being brought out by professional bodies and organizations will actually be helpful. And some companies also institute training programs in their organizations to be able to do to get their workers, their personnel, either technical or administrative or whatever, to be able to do a good job. You won't you have objective, and in my company, for example, we run programs for both in-house and also send personnel, to outside bodies for training, especially when we do appraisal, and we know that they are deficient and they could improve their performance. And that is what many organizations are doing. The banks, I know they are doing that. We see the kind of programs that ICANN is doing. But over and above that, you won't limit the exposure of your personnel, to make them become good professionals. You still have to do much more. Either you organize in-house training. There are systems, the arrangement made by some companies. They install facilities to be able to, either during their break or at certain times, you go in there, especially in the area of technological development. You install, you provide infrastructure that will enable the workers or the personnel to go on there and do some training, do self marking, and then at the end of the day, you'll be able to assess their performance. That has helped tremendously in improving the quality of people. So, if the universities, if they are failing their duties, to provide proper grounding for our children, their employers will have to do much more. But we could make the situation better. For example, in overseas, you have people in the industries and government going to teach in the universities. They will be able to impart practical knowledge of the job they are doing to the students. And some of them will have good exposure to what the outside university was look like. And in the past, they tend to arrange an internship, but today, yes, the internship program is good conceptually, but the management of such a internship program at times leaves very much to be desired. In the sense that you give them 6 months to do internship, but some don't even have they don't get a place to do the internship on good time. Maybe at the end of the day, out of 6 months, they may be able to do 3 months, and then they go back, they will get some report. They haven't done a thorough internship, which is mandatory in some other universities in the abroad. In fact, you could even do 1 year of internship, and then a serious internship, and then they will be able to assess you what you have be able to do. So when you now go for full job, full employment, you can do a very good job, unlike what is happening now. So the professional bodies, they would now have to fill, they are filling the vacuum, but they will have to constantly innovate, responding to the challenges we are facing if we really want to help people. But we can still not leave the universities out. And government should should mastermind, not just doing a sort of overhauling the curriculum whereby they make the curriculum of the universities to fit into what the industry or the government needs. I remember as far back as the 60s, even government used to set up administrative colleges where they would train civil servants that are being brought into the civil service. An example that is relevant is the Administrative Staff College at Badagry, set up at the level of federal government. The state government, the regional government, had theirs. When I had the opportunity of working in the Ministry of Education before I went to the university, and I know the amount of the training that we used to do for administrative officers, that are entering the university. If we give serious attention to staff development, we use as we were doing, we should have been able to improve much more than we are doing, but it's never too late. So, it has to be, all hands must be on deck, both at governmental and organizational companies level, and the professional institute that are rendering very good service for Nigerian personnel getting into
Super.
various companies and industries.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And part of it, um, in looking at finishing schools, something similar to what the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria has pioneered in Nigeria, the accounting technician course, catch them on, put them into beautiful hands-on, prepare them for the next pedestal. Um, Joseph Ojebola is coming back to say that at the center of the decadence in the educational sector, particularly public university, we have disgruntled lecturers, lost interest in impacting knowledge, students. How can we get them back to the optimal performance level, or get them out of the system? I suppose you already mentioned this as part of your passing, some of your passing comments. Are there additional things you want to add on to that? Because you're already giving us your views about ASU and that government cannot fund it alone. Yes, Dr. Falbe.
Yes, well, you see, I'm very, very sure, and many people, if they want to be realistic, will agree that government cannot fund education, to have the right quality, to have the right facility, adequate facility, and the infrastructure. Today infrastructure is very important. I went to a school to visit a friend many years ago, outside London, Essex. The children, as young as they are, they were using digital tool, computer, to do a lot of things. Can you imagine somebody using a computer to prepare the recipe of salad and so on? Whereas that is at a primary school level. When you get to the to secondary school level, not to talk of university, you can imagine some of the things they will be they are doing. So this is a technological age, digital era, where we used to call it exponential age. There is in the past we used to do things develop, by progression. But later it became something like geometric progression. But today is exponential. In other words, what you have, there are quantum jumps in the way the world is going on around us. And then there was a friend we were talking about a government, a state government that was they were providing services for. And the people were still as if they are living in the dark ages. They said they cannot even do ordinary transfer of money using digital system. They said, you have to go and pay money and then to bring teller and so on. That illustrates the kind of forwardness we still have in some areas. Even that has at governmental level. So what in effect I'm saying is that we have to develop. Now, like I said, government cannot do it, and that is where we have to imitate what happens overseas. I'm aware that quite a number of alumni association of universities tend to help, their respective universities by raising money and so on. University of Ibadan, they do that. There are some philanthropic philanthropists who bring out money to either to build facilities or provide infrastructures. So now, but come to think of it, there is what we call education tax, where government takes 2% of annual income of companies as education tax. Then you tend to wonder, where does the money go? What do they do with the money? How has this impacted, on the development of education in the country? The government of either federal or state government, how much of their budget is being devoted to education, and how much of what has been budgeted was actually released? How much was actually spent? Is it that you are supposed to put 1 naira on a particular program and only 50 kobo, actually get there? What has happened to the rest? Who is we don't have proper accountability, we don't have probity. So these are some of the factors militating against development of education. And if you give the money to the university, to what extent do they actually use the money, spend the money judiciously to develop the university in terms of infrastructure and facilities for our children? So we always have crises, in our universities.
You can say that again, Dr. Fawibe, and because time is not always a friend, I'd like you to throw in your final thoughts on this subject. Your final thoughts, please.
Okay, now thank you very much, Ake, for this program. I never knew that this kind of program exists, and from now on, I will always try to tune in to the program, because the program is actually doing good for Nigeria, especially those in the field of accountancy. But it's not only people working in the field of accountancy, and I thank you for taking the initiative to work with the Institute of for ICAN to be able to put up this program. I believe many people will learn, from this, both students and of accountancy and non-accountant. There is a course they used to call accounting for non-accounting professionals. So it's
Yes.
not only the accountant that will benefit from this, and you are doing a very good job for this, and I commend you, and I commend the ICAN body, Mrs. Itayo. You are supporting this program in your institute. It's a good thing, and you are helping the Nigerians, tremendously. And we should continue with this. I believe the Nigerians will remember you for this, and your names will be written in gold because of
Super.
the value that this has added to their background in developing themselves as professionals.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Diron Fawibe. I also like to thank online participants for your questions that you have thrown in. As usual, time always not being a friend. We are streaming some information that you can see out there. A couple talking about professional examination which now holds from May 10 to May 12, 2022. Announcement to say that all stakeholders that the May 2022 professional examination, which was earlier scheduled for Tuesday, May 17 to Thursday, May 19, we now hold from Tuesday, May 10 to Thursday, May 12, year 2022. All inconveniences are highly, highly regretted. And you could, well, that is streaming now. And then we also have to let you know, I'm sure that is also being streamed for the 69th induction ceremony. Will now be holding on May 24 and 25. Talking about the 69th professional induction ceremony, earlier scheduled for May 9 and 10, we now hold from Tuesday, May 24th to Wednesday, May 25th, 2022 at the ICAN Center, Plot 12, Kofo, Kasumu Street, Lakeview Estate at Amun Ward of These announcements are now being made because of unforeseen circumstances. And of course, all inconveniences caused by the change are highly regretted. Ahmed M. Kumshe, Professor, FCA, Registrar, Chief Executive, making that announcement. And our next episode on ICAN on Air will be on Thursday, April 21st, 2022 at 6 p.m. West African time. To stream on all ICAN social media handles, the YouTube and the Facebook. Please ensure that you tell somebody to also tell somebody to join you to come and benefit from the Institute of Chartered Accountants special program to educate and show light for you to become better professionals. The topic we are going to be looking at will be strategy, design, and execution in terms of uncertainty, what professional accountants should know. And we'll be having as our guest Mr. Kayode Omorege, FCA, a senior fellow at the Lagos Business School, where he engages in research and teaching in finance and strategy. He is the founding senior partner of Osaretin Omorige and Co-Chartered Accountants. And he is also the CEO and principal consultant of Resource Edge Limited, a strategic corporate finance and performance advisory firm. You don't want to miss this. And let me drop you my nuggets for today. And I quote, education is the movement from darkness to light. End of quote. Education is the movement from darkness to light. That is attributable to Alan Bloom. And we call on all and sundry particularly policymakers and development partners outside Nigeria, in Nigeria, and elsewhere to join the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and a council. I will strive to illuminate Nigeria and our outer world. And so the sun sets on ICAN on air today to arise again on Thursday, April 21st, 2022. I always say, you'll be the change you like to see. And until then, I remain Akifatunke, your anchor, ICAN on air. Bye for now.